we had some great leaders who gave me a lot of permission and were really up for some creative thinking. It was part of the period of time when NAB took on all the banks, what we called the Fair Value campaign.
Yeah.
And I worked with an extraordinary collective, but I really was in charge of the biggest asset for the bank in terms of its conversation with Australia. NAB was known as, and is still, the largest business bank in the country, but was not known for its personal bank or its retail bank offering, and people actually didn't recognize it for what it did in that regard. And so we were on a mission to change that. And so we really started to look at everything we did. And again, this group of individuals, Cameron Klein, Lisa Gray, um, all were working in a similar mindset to me, that if you serve the customer, that's the right way to make money. And so collectively, there's another gentleman who was one of my peers at the time, Anthony Waldron, who's now at REA, just extraordinary human beings, who really shared a value set, and we had a lot of sport with it. So one great example of that, and I should say that the mortgage business, when I took it over, was going backwards.
Right.
And over the next 3 years, it was the fastest growing mortgage business in the country. And we went from the biggest client of the complaints ombudsman uh, to number five. And it's near impossible to be fifth when you're one of the four major banks.
Sure. Absolutely.
But to have the most complaints, but we did great things. Like one of the things we did was, and it was so funny when I reflect on it. This was an era where you charged exit fees if anyone wanted to leave the mortgage.
Yeah.
So it would be thousands of dollars if you were unhappy with your bank to go elsewhere. And we were aggrieved by this, going, this is not the right way to make money. This is not the right way to keep customers. And so this is just an example. And so then I began a conversation with Federal Treasury to say, because they were at that stage starting to make some fees unlawful,
Yeah.
so dishonour fees, etc. And I was lobbying them to make exit fees unlawful. And we knew we couldn't cancel the exit fees on our own because it would just leave us open to competitor attack. And so I was lobbying them. Initially, they wouldn't even meet me at Parliament House. Like, they just thought I was so dodgy. And I remember meeting with the regulators who just were going, this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, this is not really happening. Cameron was getting a dreadful time at the ABA because the other banks weren't happy with the stuff we were doing. But eventually, we lobbied them to successfully have this included. We wanted them to make the change and then for all the banks to follow, but we didn't get that opportunity. They actually said to us, we will do it, but we want you to announce at the same time that you're going to do it and make it effective immediately. And there was some risk in that because we were then open to competitive attack,
Yeah.
right? But we agreed to do it. And it was just a magical moment where the government announced, we announced simultaneously, and we took full page ads out of what's good for customers is good for NAB, and we fully support what the government has done here. And then the other three caved very quickly. so it actually magically worked. But it was an example. I mean, we reformed how credit cards were charged, all sorts of things. And all a group of people much bigger than me led on all of these initiatives. But it was a time of great opportunity. And as I said to you, um, it was also, like, I think one of the great case studies of when you look after the customer, you win. And I think that gets lost all the time because everyone's looking for increased fees for revenue now. But through everything we did, of which I've just touched on a tiny bit, we added a year to the life of a customer, which is meaningful. So the average customer life was 4 years, or product life, and it became 5 years. And so, that's 20% more revenue
Wow.
just by doing the right thing. And so I feel like something's been lost there where all this short-termism of raise fees because you've got to feed the beast. You go, actually, just do the right thing by the customers because the dividend is real. Um, and, we proved it. And so it was a pretty special time at NAB, and I was very happy to be there.